Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to our game day show for the ReliaQuest Bowl with Alabama. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Joining us today with his thoughts on that matchup and much more is beat writer Aaron McMann from MLive. First, our final view from Section 17 for this year. Let's face it, Alabama should have been in the playoffs, or at least a better bowl game. Michigan probably should have been in the Pinstripe or Music City Bowl, but ESPN wanted this matchup that would give them the most eyeballs, and they got it. From a football perspective, this is not a good matchup for Michigan. Bama is 9-3, just missed the playoffs, has most of their starters suiting up, and would love to show a big TV audience why they should have been in the field of 12. Michigan, on the other hand, is missing a boatload of starters on both sides of the ball. And if we're being honest, even if we were at full strength, hanging with Bama would have been asking a lot. So we have two teams playing on Tuesday that have different agendas. Bama is there to remind the CFP they made a mistake. Michigan is there to get a lot of young faces playing time and see what they've got. It's more like a spring game in Florida for us. So let's keep that in mind and see what happens. Sharon says his guys just want to play football again, and they will be ready.
Excited for the opportunity to play. Again, a rematch of last year, and I know that was probably part of the bowl matchup, but just excited for a great program that we get to play and an opportunity to play football again. So our guys are excited. All the guys that'll be there will be ready to play. We're just locked and ready to go.
Sharon says the 15 practices and a chance to play in a bowl game is all about getting better as a team.
Just want to get better. Just want to continue to get better. And like I told the team, want to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Not just them, but me. I put myself in uncomfortable situations to continue to get better. And that's all I want to do. I just want to get better. I want to make our team better in however way I can, from a practice standpoint, from a roster standpoint, and just make us the best team we can be as we go into the bowl game.
Sharon said he fully supports his guys that are sitting out, and he's ready to roll with the guys he has.
I support those guys that have done a lot for this program in their 3 years, 4 years here, and I support them in any way. I want to be there for them, love them, care about them. Anything that they need from me, I want to support them. Obviously, I want them to play in the game, but support their decisions and their family decisions. And the guys that are here ready to play, we're going to be ready to play the game.
My guest today says it hasn't been the season we expected, but it has been an adventure each and every week. He expects that to be the case again on Tuesday, so do I. Joining us next is Wolverine beat writer Aaron McMann from MLive. So stay with us. Joining us today as we get ready for the ReliaQuest Bowl next Tuesday in Tampa is beat writer Aaron McMann from MLive. Welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Good to be back, Mike. Happy Merry Christmas to you and all the listeners, and happy holidays to everyone.
Well, the same to you. Merry Christmas, Aaron, and I know you're headed down to Tampa with the team getting down there also later today. We're recording on Thursday. So the team getting there, and I think they're trying to get a practice in before they leave today, aren't they?
That's what I was told, yeah, because the original bowl schedule had them and Alabama actually both practicing down in Tampa today, as you said, Thursday. But there's some changes made, and both teams are now heading down tonight. So I think they're both going to practice in Ann Arbor and Tuscaloosa, and they head down, and they'll have 3 practices there in Tampa. 2 of them will be open to the media, and then they'll get ready to play December 31st.
Well, it's going to be busy. Not even a full week, really, as they have in the past at some of the bowls. So along with the practices, I'm sure there are a lot of commitments and even some fun time scheduled, I would think, wouldn't you, Aaron?
Yeah. There are a couple days. Sunday, I know they go to the beach, Clearwater Beach, the players, and it's kind of like a pep rally type thing. Sherwin Moore will get on stage and speak to the fans. I think the band is supposed to show up. And then there's another day with the team after practice. I think it's Saturday. They go to Busch Gardens. So there are some some fun times sprinkled in there. The bowl down there in Tampa does a good job of kind of mixing in obviously practice with enjoying the elements a little bit too.
Well, Aaron, it's hard to believe, but both of these teams met on New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl, so not exactly a year yet. And of course, that was for the semifinal game in the college football playoffs. And here we are closing out the year with a rematch. As we all know, the stakes are not nearly as high. And these two teams, they are vastly different than the two that met in the Rose Bowl, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. Even down to the head coaches, right? Kalen DeBoer, Michigan saw, in the national title game against Washington. Obviously, Sherwin Moore was the offensive coordinator last year. So 2 new head coaches, 2 different looking rosters, and in Michigan's case, I think significantly different just from what we saw in the regular season. So it's not quite, doesn't have the juice. Maybe some of us thought, maybe hoped it would have. It certainly doesn't have the juice that the Rose Bowl packed back on January 1st when all state, everything was on the line to play for a national championship. So I think it's a reality now in the bowl situation, right? If you're not in the playoff now, the bowls just don't mean as much. I can remember even Michigan's appearance back in 2018 in the Peach Bowl down in Atlanta. It was it was a big bowl at the time, but it wasn't a playoff game, and you started to see players opt out of these games, especially guys with high level draft side. It's just a reality situation now. Michigan's probably going to have a few more opt outs certainly than Alabama does, but it is 2 big brands going up on New Year's Eve on ESPN. So I think from a bowl game perspective, I think the folks in Tampa are ecstatic. You had 2 teams that are kind of playing out of their position, so to speak. Alabama probably dropped down a bowl game. They should probably be playing in the Citrus Bowl. And in Michigan, they moved up a spot. They probably should be playing in Nashville or New York. But because of the brand recognition and popularity and everything else, they get to play in Tampa as well.
Well, there's no question about it. These bowls don't mean what they used to. But for Alabama, when you talk to the Alabama writers and media, we all know they just fell short of making the playoffs, and they are still not happy about it. And you get the feeling they want to prove a point against Michigan, don't they?
Yeah, I got to think they're going to be energized. A little probably upset, motivated. I think it's probably a good way to say it. It sounds like most of their top level guys, if they haven't hit the transfer portal, they're going to play, and that starts with their quarterback, Jalen Milroe. So you're going to see some of their better players certainly suiting up. I think they probably want to finish the season on a high note, as you pointed out. You go 9-3. They're basically a spot out of getting into the playoffs. They obviously weren't happy about it. Give Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff credit to convince some of these guys to play in this game. But at the same time, I think it's a recognition too of maybe draft position, right? Like Michigan's got several high level first round prospects on their team. Playing in these type of games probably isn't smart for them. You can point to Jake Butt and some of the other guys who've gotten injured in bowl games and seen their draft stock drop. In the case of Alabama, they don't have as many high level draft prospects this year. So you got some guys who are kind of in a way kind of playing that money game. They're going to try and help boost their stock a little bit and play against the Michigan team. So different motivations, I guess, on both sides. But certainly, Alabama will be, I think, ready and juiced up to play in this game.
Well, and this Alabama team comes into a Tuesday's game pretty healthy. They've lost players in the portal. We know we picked up a couple of them. and they really don't have many opt-outs that I know of. They are short in the receiver room. I think they only have 4 scholarship receivers left. But in reality, all of that aside, this is still a very good football team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're 9-3. They were, in the top half of the SEC, and you could have made the case maybe top to bottom. The SEC was the best conference in football this year, but they got left out of the playoff, and as we said, they're probably going to be a motivated bunch. So this team is a good team. They had some very good wins this year, and they had some bad losses as well. So it's a high level program. There's no doubt about it. There's some high level players, and a quarterback, as I mentioned earlier, Jalen Milroe, still one of the better quarterbacks in college football in the country. So the Michigan's going to have their hands full. They're top to bottom. This roster is talented. They got guys on both sides of the ball, really, that can play well. So it's going to be a test for this Michigan team. Probably a Michigan team lacking in depth and certainly high-level players. So I'm curious to see how they come out and match up.
Well, when Alabama has the ball, they will be facing a defense that is missing some of its very best players from this year. So with what we know about who Alabama's putting on the field and Michigan, how do you see the Michigan defense matching up with Bama?
Yeah, Wink Martindale's going to have his hands full. I think you have to do some mixing and matching. You're probably going to get creative with some of the play calls and just the schemes. It wouldn't surprise me if you see some names or hear some names you're maybe less familiar with, and you might see some coverages that are different because he's going to have to probably play more zone in the back end with the secondary. Probably not going to get as much pressure up front as you would normally expect. Without Mason Graham, without Kenneth Grant, it sounds like Josiah Stewart's not going to play. Michigan's going to have to do some things and get creative to try and get the quarterback. So it's going to be It's going to be a different looking defense. There's no doubt about it. I think the one positive out of this situation for Michigan is that you get some of these younger guys snaps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of the bowl, committing to a bowl game, is you get those extra practices. You get those extra work, and Michigan's coaching staff, and in this case, Wink Martindale, they get a good look at some of these guys who are coming back or could be potential playmakers next year.
Well, when Michigan has the ball, we'll be missing Colston Loveland, Donovan Edwards, Miles Hinton. And even when we had those guys, the offense was not that good this year, to be blunt. This Alabama defense, pretty darn stout. It might not be one of their great defenses, but they're good. And it's hard to see how Michigan can have a lot of success against these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what the offense is going to look like. We do expect Davis Warren to get the start, probably his last as a starting quarterback here at Michigan. You mentioned all the guys that are out. Their top receiver, Tyler Morris, is also at the transfer portal, so he won't be available either. So Michigan's going to be playing with a ragtag kind of group of guys. I'm curious to see how the offensive line matches up because they had several offensive linemen either hit the portal or, in the case of Miles Hinton, as you pointed out, just aren't playing to play. So it might be a struggle to move the football. You're not going to have your 2 best running backs either. You don't have your best, pass catcher in Colston Loveland, as you said. I don't know where the production is going to come from, to be quite honest with you. I am curious to see how the line holds up. I am curious to see, what Jordan Marshall looks like, the freshman running back. We saw him a little bit toward the end of the year, and certainly on special teams. So I expect him to get a lot of carries. Ben Hall will probably get a lot of carries as well. We'll have to go from there. I think you're going to see some of the younger receivers. It might be a situation where Samaj Morgan, Fred Moore kind of have to stand up and have a big game or come through in the passing game because they don't have a ton of options there. So I'm more intrigued maybe to see how the offense looks than the defense.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to imagine a scenario or a game plan that can keep Michigan close in this one, but it's hard to imagine that. We have to win the turnover battle, run the football, and force some turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. But any way you look at it, beating Bama is going to also take some breaks from them, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean when you go up in against a superior team, as we saw against Ohio State, right? Like you can only do so much, and you need them to kind of fall over themselves, and they have come up with some mistakes, cough it up, turn it over, and that's certainly going to be part of the game plan. There's no doubt about it. I mean Michigan's going to have to, the breaks are going to have to go their way. They're going to have to play smart, fundamental football, and not turn the ball over. That it kind of starts with there, right? If you can hold possession for a while, keep the ball out of Alabama's hands, and then hopefully the defense come up with some takeaways. Sounds like the secondary might be looking a little more in better shape than the front line, and it wouldn't shock me if Michigan has both their linebackers available as well. So Wink might be able to do some stuff on the back end to force some things, maybe get an interception or two, ideally. But you're right. I mean, they have to play a perfect brand of football to have, I think, have a shot. And there's a reason. Look, the point spread has moved from think it was open 8.5, 9.5. It's now pushing 13 and 14 points. It could be a blowout. Wouldn't shock me if it is. But at the same time, Michigan can make it close. They can muck it up, just like we saw against the Buckeyes, and keep things close as the game goes on. You hope things go your way. And then maybe, Dominic Zavada or somebody can push it through and get you some points late.
You don't want to get blown out. Winning's always goal number one. But, putting that aside, the other goal and the benefit of playing a team like Bama is the extra practices. You're getting a look at a lot of younger guys, not only in practice, but in the game. So big picture, this is more about getting ready for next year in a way, isn't it, Aaron?
It is. I mean, these are effectively, spring games before the spring games. They're, as I said, we're going through practice. They're going through practice with a lot, a depleted roster, some younger guys who haven't maybe played as many snaps. They're going to be pushed into roles they're not used to, or maybe uncomfortable situations. But it's a good way to kind of see how the young guys respond. If you got a freshman or sophomore they like and they maybe saw flashes of during the year in practice or whatever the case may be, this is a perfect example of a situation for them to come through. Josiah Edmond, Cole Sullivan, two names I'm thinking of defensively, and then offensively, as I said earlier, Jordan Marshall have an opportunity. Maybe some of the true freshman receivers will get more of a run. Maybe we even see a little bit of Jane Davis at quarterback as the game goes on. So it wouldn't shock me at all. Michigan's. And they're working with a new offensive coordinator, too. Steve Krasula, the tight ends coach, is going to be the one calling the plays with Kirk Campbell gone. And they're still waiting on the OC to kind of come in and get acclimated. But you got a lot of people kind of figuring things out. And it's a good way to go into spring of, okay, these guys can perform on the big stage under the bright lights against a good quality opponent. It's going to help their case moving into the offseason.
Well, every game this year has been an adventure for Michigan, and that will not change on New Year's Eve. It should be quite the spectacle. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be another adventure. But getting ready for next year, it started after the Ohio State game by signing that top 10 recruiting class, jumping into the portal. And so far, it appears Michigan has picked up some nice pieces in the portal. We could use some offensive linemen. But getting Mikey Keene from Fresno State might be, underwhelming to some fans. But he's a decent quarterback, isn't he, Aaron?
I think raises the floor of the quarterback room. We don't know yet if he's going to be the starter. Michigan is going to bring him in and basically let him lose, right? Let him compete for the starting job. If anything, say he does win the job, he pushes Bryce Underwood to improve his game and help bring him up to speed to the college level. But Michigan fans got a firsthand look at Mikey Keene, obviously week one when Michigan played Fresno State. His numbers weren't great, but he was a competent, reliable quarterback. And look, Fresno State was up against the Big Ten team in Michigan. So I am curious to see how he does. I mean, this will be his third team in college. In the era of the transfer portal, he has a lot of familiarity with Michigan's new OC, Chip Lindsey. Lindsey was the OC and quarterbacks coach at UCF when Keene was there for his first couple of years in college. So he knows what I think Lindsey wants to run. And there's a familiarity probably with the playbook that's coming in, and it's an opportunity for Keene to perform at a higher level, right? Like the one thing when Jim Harbaugh was the coach at Michigan here, we would bring in transfers, whether it was quarterback or whatever. He never promised guys anything, but he would tell them like there's an opportunity to compete and do it on the big stage. Some of the quarterbacks were able to do it. Some obviously weren't. They were second or third on the bench. So Keene's going to come in, with the quarterback room as depleted as it is right now. He's going to get an opportunity. There's no doubt about it. We'll see if he takes the ball and runs it. But either way, I think bringing him in helps the quarterback room. No doubt about it. And it's going to help Bryce Underwood probably in the long run as well.
Well, I know practices are closed so far. We've got a couple you're going to get to see down in Tampa, but we don't get much in the way of information that leaks out of Fort Schembechler. But Bryce Underwood has been with the team practicing now. And have you heard anything that's sort of leaked out about how he's looked?
Yeah, not a ton. We had a chance to talk to the players last week. They were obviously all complimentary of him. He's only 17 years old. I've had the opportunity to be around him now for a couple of times now this month for different events. And for 17, he's a rather mature young man. He carries himself very well. You can tell he's been surrounded by loving and nurturing parents. So I think Michigan got a mature young man. And look, he already looks the part. You walk up to the kid and he looks like a high level quarterback. He's got the figure. He's not going to have to really worry about putting on much weight. It's now about kind of getting acclimated at the college level, right? Not only being able to go to class, but learning how to be on time for practices and show up for daily workouts and learning the playbook and getting acclimated with the team. So I think that's what it's about right now. We were joking. I think we spoke with Davis Warren last week or 2 weeks ago, and he was joking they were just kind of helping him find the playbook. So, there's some work to be done. We'll see what he looks like in the spring. But so far, everything's been positive. I haven't heard a negative thing yet about the kid. When you're surrounded by, what he was at in Belleville, a lot of high-level prospects, a lot of hype, a lot of stuff going on. Seemed like he weathered it relatively well. So these first 6 months, I think, are going to be crucial for his development, right? I think Michigan's going to find out pretty quickly if they think he can do it, if he can play as a true freshman, and then they'll go from there. But no, so far everything's been great about him. And his talent level, Davis Warren was raving about his arm too. So it's there. It's just a matter of when it's going to be kind of uncorked, whether it's year one or year two here.
Oh, yeah. Well, as we know, round one of the playoffs is in the books, Aaron, and there's been plenty of complaining from, media types and fans about how it went down. But what are your thoughts on how the first round played out?
Yeah, it probably justified maybe having an 18 playoff and not a 12. Obviously, look, it's the first year of this, so it's important not to overreact to some of these results. You can go back to the 14 playoff in previous years where there were several blowouts in the semifinal round. So this is what people wanted generally. They wanted more teams, more opportunities, more chances for some of the smaller schools, quote unquote, to have an opportunity to try and win the national championship. Look, it's played out kind of how we expected. I'm curious to see how Boise State and Arizona State fare here in the quarterfinal round. But it's created more meaningful football, and I think that's the important part of the playoff. You can have your criticisms, and you could say, well, this team didn't deserve to be in the playoff. It created more meaningful postseason football, and not only that, but I thought made the month of November in general, the regular season, mean more because you had a lot of games, a lot of teams, a lot of 7, 8, 9-win teams still fighting for something, still playing for something. Whereas previous years that wouldn't have been the case, especially the last few. So you would see more opt-outs. Teams probably not care as much because they knew they were going to quote unquote some of these small level bowl games. So I think it's helped make more games mean more. But yeah, moving forward, I'm curious to see if the blowouts continue because from a TV perspective and a sponsorship perspective and some of the leagues, I'm sure that they weren't happy to see those. It's the nature of college football, and we'll see where things go from here.
Well, I think the game that most of us will have our eyes on New Year's Day is the Rose Bowl, Ohio State and Oregon, a monster matchup. If Ohio State plays the way they played against Tennessee last weekend, I think it's going to be tough for Oregon to get them this time, don't you?
I do, yeah. I was looking forward to seeing a rematch of that game. I thought we were going to see it in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game, and then Michigan went out and beat the Buckeyes. So we'll get to see it in the Rose Bowl. I'm looking forward to it. You got two, I think, really evenly matched teams. Two offenses that are really explosive. Michigan fans they got to see both teams. I'm still wondering what that game plan was last week for Ohio State against Michigan because it certainly didn't show up. So I'm looking for a neutral site. It's a virtual toss-up, and I'm looking forward to it. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if winning that game ends up, advancing to the national championship or even playing or winning a national title. So it's fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, looking at the brackets heading into this week's action, who would you, if you had to make a choice, say is moving ahead to the semis?
Texas probably looks good. I think that's a mismatch on paper. Arizona State probably shouldn't have got a 4 seed in the bye, but they obviously won their conference, so that's just the nature of the beast nowadays. Penn State, I think, has a good path to beat Boise. I'm not sold on Boise State just yet. Look, the running back is fantastic, Ashton Giante. Boise State wasn't really tested much in the regular season, aside from a short loss to Oregon. So I am curious to see how they hold up against Penn State. And yeah, as you point out, the Oregon-Ohio State game is the one I'm looking forward to. Notre Dame, Georgia, too. Georgia's going to be without their quarterback, Carson Beck. How do they fare? If Beck was there, they probably would have been my pick to win the national title. But I got to think that Notre Dame's going to have something to say about that. So in terms of the biggest mismatch, I'm going to say it's Texas, Arizona State. I think Texas advances relatively easily.
Well, final question before we let you get away, Aaron. I don't think many fans or anyone in the media expects Michigan to beat Alabama. If we do win, of course, that's a huge program win. But whatever happens, how would you rate Sharon's first season? Would it be a success, or do you think this team underperformed?
That's a good question, because I was asked before the season started how I would define a success for Sharon in year one, and I said something to the effect of getting into the Ohio State game and having a shot to still play for a Big Ten title. Obviously, they fell short of that. They go 7-5 in the regular season. But I don't think it was a total disaster, right? You beat your rivals, you beat Michigan State, and you go to Columbus and win again. I think there's something to say for that. I think Sharon deserves credit for keeping the team relatively intact. Guys are still playing hard until the end of the year, clearly, given the way Michigan finished the season. And I think there's something to that. And then you factor in all the issues on offense. They are still pulling in a top 10 recruiting class. We did our postseason grades at MLive.com a few weeks ago, and I think I gave Sharon a C+. You could probably make a case for a B-. I don't think it was bad, and you got to keep in mind, put things in perspective too. I mean, Sharon didn't take the job until the end of January, so he kind of missed that first portal window. He's also a first-year head coach, so I think there's a lot of learning on the job he did this year. Maybe some good, some bad. In a way, it's incomplete, but I think given everything he was dealt, I thought he did okay. Could have been better. Obviously, I think you can always make that case, but it's a lot easier finishing a 7-5 season when you've known you beat your two rivals, and I think he deserves some credit for that.
I think he does too, and of course he can add a cherry to the top by ending the year with a win over Alabama. Mm-hmm. That is going to be a tall order, though, but we'll see. Joining us today to talk about the ReliaQuest Bowl and more has been beat writer Aaron McMann from MLive. Aaron, once again, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and thank you for joining us. It's always great to have you on the show, and enjoy the bowl game and your time in sunny Tampa, and we look forward to that next visit.
Merry Christmas, Mike. I'm looking forward to getting out of the cold.
On Quick Hits today, we already know this is not the same team we saw against Ohio State a few weeks ago. There are at least 10 starters opting out that we know of, and there could be more missing when we tune in on Tuesday. For me, this matchup is about handling expectations. The fan side of me expects Michigan to show up for every game and compete with a chance to win. The part of me that tries to be objective and realistic knows there are times that is asking a lot. I believe in the next man up mantra, but there are games like this one when we just have to realize we're up against a top-tier program and we are not on their level, at least for this game. Who knows, maybe the guys will prove the experts wrong and give Bama all they can handle. Until they don't, I am all in this Tuesday and will be ready to rock at 12 noon. It's our last time to see Michigan football in a real game until we tee it up again next year, so let's enjoy it. The weatherman says we should expect rain during the game, with temps in the mid-70s. It will also be windy, with gusts up to 13 miles an hour. Game time is just after 12 noon, and you can see it on ESPN. Next week, we'll be back to kick off Season 16 of this show, hard to believe. We'll recap the bowl game and then keep busy this winter with recruiting news and spend more time on men and women's hoops and even hockey. Before you know it, we'll be talking about softball and baseball as they get underway in about 6 weeks. So even though football is coming to an end for another year, as I always tell you, we aren't going away. So make sure you stay with us through these coming months. As we close out another year, I'd like to wish each and every one of you a very happy Maize and Blue New Year. Thanks for tuning in and for all your kind words during the year. They really do mean a lot. So until 2025, which is next week, have a great Wolverine weekend, everyone. Think victory, beat Bama. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!